Now originally this building here was called the tram stop, and it was sort of the central place where you would get on and off vehicles and took you all around. Heritage USA went way back into the back area. We're not going to go because we have such a big crowd, but if you drive back there, the original studio where the TV show was shot, and the barn, 5,000 seat space auditorium, and the academy, the Heritage Academy School, was way back in the back where the campground, there's still a current campground there. And the trams would go all over, the buses, some of y'all rode on those, but this was sort of the central hub. Ever since we've gotten here, we've never really been able, that was one of the last projects left to restore. And now we were kind of just waiting to see what God would have that be. And a lot of things were thrown around, but when Bob Jones passed away, it came up that maybe that would be a good place to make sort of a prayer worship center named in his name or named after him. And so now that's sort of roughly the schedule of what it's intended to be. And the building here would be sort of walled in with glass. The walkway will be also restored. And that walkway used to go to what was called Heritage Island. There used to be a 400-foot water slide area with one of the world's first wave pools of its kind, and all of that opened in 1986. And you have to see pictures to believe it. And it was all taken out when MorningStar took the property. It was many. Some people asked why didn't they keep the water park. It took several $1 million to upkeep that, and the water and all that. And when Jim and Tammy and the ministry left, people didn't really come like it had been, and so they couldn't keep up the maintenance of that. So what was important to note is that everybody that tried to come in here and buy the property didn't get it. That they came to see Jim and Tammy, and so they always over or underestimated. Oh, we'll just buy this big theme park and make a lot of money. And some of them said, we'll make it a Christian theme park. And then the Radisson bought it and wanted to make it a regular hotel. And they put alcohol sales in there. And that lasted less than a month before they lost out and had to leave. And they kind of went running with their clothes left in the truck, so to speak. But that's another story. It's a very interesting story. Currently, it's going to be residential homes here. We would love that to be, I would love it to be MorningStar minded, like people living here. But it's going to be a community, part of the surrounding community of homes here. That this is a really, if you didn't know it, this is one of the highest performing schools in this area for South Carolina. It's the Fort Mill School District. It's very high property value, and without even MorningStar being here, it's got one of the best school systems in the state, and it's close to Charlotte. A lot of people come over, and the taxes and everything like that. So this is a really prime property, and MorningStar really is looking to figure out ways to connect that community and really be like a prime sort of partner with the people here. But they used to have water skiing, lamps, and on this lake. They had big fireworks celebrations, people singing. Buffalo Park was around this corner. There was all kinds of concerts. You might remember those. But any questions on this part? Passion Play. Well, over those homes, there was the Jerusalem Amphitheater and also the Upper Room. And I'm glad my friend here brought that up. The Upper Room is now restored and functioning and running again as a chapel, and church services are being held there. A man named Russell James took over the property and just has made it become back to life. They have weddings there, receptions, and if you drive out Heritage Parkway in that direction towards Pineville, you'll see the Upper Room, and you can stop in there. And I actually put together got a little museum exhibit in there too, showed some pictures from when that was open. That was opened in 1984, July 4th, or 1982, July 4th. And, but that's still there. And you can pray there. And I actually was there when Jim Bakker came back and did a show. I was fortunate enough to get in there for his first time back in however many years. The amphitheater was taken down, as was the castle. And now that is going to be expanded campground area. There used to be 4 campgrounds here. It started out as heritage, or sport heritage. It wasn't going to be hotels. It was going to be a campground. And in the late 70s, some of you might have been here, it was basically you could camp out here around this lake and other areas, and it was a lot of camping sort of ministry. And that really was like people getting to know each other and fellowshipping. That was sort of the strength of it. Jim had fiber optic cable, always like really well done and top dollar. They had fiber optic put out to the campgrounds. I went back there and verified that. Did some investigating out in the woods, and there was like one of those boxes turned over, and sure enough, I took pictures of it. There were fiber optic cable in 1985, 84, and they're putting that in homes now. And so, it was just a neat story. But that was over there, and now that amphitheater is no longer there. It's gone, and they're going to put expanded campground area. Heritage Inn was a little hotel part of the ministry was there, and that's been gone. That was taken down. The carousel and all of the shopping and the pool, the big pool, the skating rink, it's all down. It's where those homes are now. Now there still has the lakeside lodges that were timeshares. Those are still there. Some of you might have stayed there, and they're still running as timeshare. There's some of them had 30-year leases. The pool there is still there, and the tennis court chalets, or 3 oddly shaped tree-top chalets, are still there. Any questions here? Yeah.
What's this here in the middle? What do you want to do?
That's going to be residential homes. Yes, and they've been working on that. The lake was here when PTL came, and this little piece right here was dug out in order to make the island. So this weird kind of arm that was here used the dirt to make the water part of the island. And I have a lot of pictures and stuff to show that. It's very interesting.
Come here and camp.
Yeah. Right.
Several years, unfortunately, I don't think we took the pictures.
Yeah, no, I find that for a lot of people, there were so many millions of people here, it's hard to find the pictures. These days, nobody even keeps, yeah. If any of the digital stuff goes out, it's going to be a problem. Thank you.
You're right about one thing. You can bring your kids here, or we want our grandkids, and just turn
Yeah. And
loose.
say, see it dark, whatever. And you hear that time and time again. It wasn't, where else would you go for Disney World, whatever, where you felt like, and that was the kind of thing that drew people here. And really, I felt like studying it, talking to people, that God loved the fellowship of all the different. And Jim Bakker said that the most people that came here, the biggest group were probably Baptists. And this was an Assembly of God church, and that wasn't really happening back then. Yeah. Exactly. So people loved it. You're standing in lines of ice cream, the ice cream shop. There'd be 100 people in line after a concert, just standing there talking. They start singing, and you hear all kinds of really neat stories. It was a very special property, and every time you meet somebody, I'd love to find anybody that I think was a partner back then, because they just light up. I mean, it was a very special place, and I think that's important, and I want to be some sort of pass that off to the generation I'm teaching my kids, because the Lord values land too, and the environment, and especially He's got wells that we're looking to redig that He had originally designed for things, all sorts of things. So it's exciting, really. And every time I've gone into the history, I've uncovered really neat things and found out. I've been blessed studying the history of it. So
We met 4 couples, and for several years we arranged it so we all came at the same time. And like one was from Wisconsin, one was from Rhode Island, and
that's awesome.
just the other day now we sold our home and we're getting ready to move into Norton, and she just found them addresses. So I don't know, maybe we get the apartment have more time, I can look them up, you know, and
Yeah,
find out.
I mean, I would love to be able to tell those stories and have that type of thing because, you know, that's
Have a
not
card,
some-
give it to me, and
yeah, that's not something that's unimportant, and the body of, you know, the church needs to get that and really get more into that and really embrace that type of thing. And one of the interesting things prophetically, I saw a lot of people tried to buy this property, and that included Billy Graham, Dolly Parton, Reggie White. I mean, a lot of different groups. The Catawba Indians, they fought all the way up to the Supreme Court trying to get the property. And, you know, I've studied a lot of that, but I was like, God, why did Earl Colston, he was the one that got the property, how did he get the property? And I'm not quite sure exactly why, but what I think it is if you read some of the headlines in the papers when he bought the property, he would constantly say, he had been in ministry himself. He had been a missionary into, I think, Estonia, Belarus in the 90s. But he said he wanted the property to be in ministry again, but not one ministry. And he always was favorable to different ministries and not necessarily MorningStar. It wasn't a MorningStar thing where you get it all. MorningStar got a piece, and it seemed like to me that the upper room or the cause property, that a lot of times there was favor in giving different ministries. And so it was the same thing historically, looking back at the denominations being here. It was kind of like a carryover of bringing the body together and functioning as a one, you know, unit, and not just one big mega ministry doing the thing. And I think that's why he got sort of the keys to the property. And it's neat to me to see that that's still the heart of the Lord.
How do we look this up on YouTube?
Heritage USA, and you'll see people's videos. They have from one guy. This is a great story. You know, I could just see this guy, his wife, just totally getting mad at him because he had like a brand new camera. You can tell, and he was just filming just cars driving by, just everything. I could just feel like, what are you doing? Come on, we gotta go. But it's such a treasure now because he videoed almost every spot of this, and not the things that were important, just the things that aren't important, which for historian people, they want to see like what kind of cars were being driven, what were you eating, and all this kind of stuff, not just the big stuff. And so he got on back of the train and just did the whole thing. And so you can, I think his thing is Cincinnati Gifts or Cincinnati something. It's his YouTube. You'll find him. But he went into the Grand Cafe, which was a Morrison's cafeteria. We're running it, and he just filmed the whole thing, and it's like you're standing there just watching people walk by. You see the 80s clothes and everything. And it's really valuable for a history person because, you know, we kind of throw away the if you have a picture that's like everyday casual thing, you don't have it. You have like the big things, the prom, like you on the big occasions, but not you just on an everyday morning. You know, you don't have to get rid of those. So that is a good source. Anything PTL might be another search thing, but Heritage USA is probably the best one.
How about the barn?
The barn got restored. It was taken over by Dale Hill as a vice president with Jim Bakker back to the days that he worked with Pat Robertson in Virginia. And he's still in the area. His son, Randy Hill, and his other family members run a church and ministry as well. But they put together a company known as the Broadcast Group, and they bought the property, or leased the property originally, and was running a studio and running electronic, all sorts of marketing and video and audio production. and they had the studio open for you to come in and do concerts or shoots. And they have since let Antioch Church take over to buy the property, the studio, the barn, and the whole building that had the school in there previously. The barn now looks great. I was in there with Russell James several months ago, and it's restored. They had John Hagee came, and they had about 1,500 people in there, and it's a beautiful building. It's where the PTL Church was during the time of Heritage USA, and they had big events there. They would have New Year's celebrations there, and it would seat 2,000 to 4,000 people, depending on how they had it set up. But it was heavily damaged during Hurricane Hugo that took place here, and that damaged a lot of the property actually. And when the Jim Bakker scandal hit, that hurricane came not too long after, and that shut down a lot of the property stuff and damaged, like a tree went through the roof of that, and it took a long time for them to finish it, but they finally did. It looks good now.
The pastor is Peter Wenz. He's one of Derek Prince's grandsons.
Right. Antioch Church is run by Peter Wynn, and he's Derek Prince's grandson. They were right over here by the school, and they've just acquired the property. I'm not quite sure if it's a purchase or lease to purchase or full purchase.
Yeah, it's a purchase.
But they're very excited because the property is amazing. You know, it's the original studio, 2,000 seat studio PTL. I'm not quite sure if the barn holds like 2,000 or 3,000, and they can do a lot with that, and so I'm sure they're very excited. This weekend they're having their grand
opening. Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a local congregation.
Yeah. It's a Messiah, like a if I'm
Christians for Messiah Ministries.
Christians for Messiah. It's a very heavily focused on Israel and the Messiah.
It's not a messianic Jewish.
I don't think
Peter is.
Yeah, he is. I don't think it is. You know, I don't know. He should probably tell you all that, but they're definitely sensitive to Israel and supporting Israel, and they take trips to Israel. And but this weekend, I forgot about that. I'm glad you mentioned it. They're having like a 3-day blowout kickoff and events, and so they're having foods there and to the community. And so anyway, if you want to get there, you can get either, it's pretty much a circle, and you can find your way if you just get on the circle and drive back there. But it's Antioch Church.
What about when Jim Bakker put the Isaiah scriptures in the ground?
Yeah, all over the property, when they did stuff, they would put verses in the building. Those particular ones, you know which part of the building you're talking about?
I thought there were stakes in the ground.
There was a lot of that. I know the ones I'm familiar with I have a couple of them. They were little silver, no weapon formed against me will prosper, or in all the foundations of the Grand Hotel and the other buildings like the upper room. But there were several things they would always, when they were breaking ground and getting ready, they would give the Lord His glory and focus on that for sure. I mean, you see that a lot in the places. I have a lot of the old magazines and things, and every time they were going to open something, that you'll find that everything in this whole area was heavily like directed towards God and sort of honoring it before they even got started. The carousel was sold. It was damaged a little in the hurricane, and then it was sold. I think it was a lease. It was just put back to the company. But do you remember? Were you here? Do you remember that? Yeah, it was straight towards those trees. It was an old, historic 100-year, nice carousel. But it got back to its company. I think it was a lease at the time.